Tyranid biomorphs are biomechanical devices and genetically engineered mutations of the Tyranid genome. They serve as additional means of attacking enemies, extending beyond the Tyranid's natural weapons such as teeth and claws. Biomorphs can also modify specific aspects or the metabolism of Tyranid bioforms, enhancing their speed, durability, or other physical characteristics. There are multiple categories of biomorphs that we will cover today. The first category will be close combat biomorphs. Bioplasma. Bioplasma is a potent close-range attack employed by Tyranid biomorphs, often integrated into Tyranid carnifexes by the hive mind. It enables a Tyranid organism to internally generate and expel an incandescent green energy in the form of a burning, blinding ball. Each bioplasma projectile possesses the destructive force equivalent to that of an Imperial plasma cannon, albeit with a shorter range. Bone sword. Bone swords are living chitin blades that regenerate and wear away over time. Infused with the psychic energy of the hive mind, they are particularly effective against armored units. Genestealer cult servants also wield bone swords grown from the osseous throne of the Genestealer patriarch, imbuing them with a sentient nature and a craving for the psychic energies of their adversaries. Claws and teeth. Basic biomorphs present on even the simplest Tyranid organisms like rippers, these razor-sharp claws and fangs enable Tyranids to tear apart their prey. Crushing claws. Possessing immense strength, these claws have the power to crush any foe. Hypermorph tail. Occurring during the approach of a hive fleet to a Genestealer-infested homeworld, some Genestealer cult aberrants mutate, extending their spinal columns into muscular tails tipped with hooked barbs. These barbs are sharp enough to slice through flesh, bone, and even infantry armor. Lash whip. Lash whips are muscular cords capable of lightning-fast slashing movements. Some Tyranid creatures wield both a lash whip and a bone sword, creating a deadly symbiotic combination. In select cases, favored Genestealer cult hybrids may also possess this lethal pairing of bioweapons, making them even deadlier at close quarters. Rending claws. Equipped with diamond-hard tips, these claws have the ability to tear through armor. Scything talons. Scything talons are long, serrated chitinous claws powered by whipcord muscles. They enable Tyranids to deliver lightning-fast stabs, slashes, and eviscerations. Sharpened claws. These claws possess extraordinary length and have been honed to a monomolecular edge. The crackling psychic energies coursing down their length further enhance their potency. Stone crusher. Encountered primarily on the Stone Crusher Carnifex, this close combat biomorph is designed for urban warfare. The Carnifex uses its immense strength to ram through walls and then pulls back, causing the entire structure to collapse. Tusks. Adamantium-laced chitinous weapons protruding from the Tyranid's head, tusks enable devastating charges, often obliterating ranks of troops by violently smashing them aside. Wrecking ball. The wrecking ball is a large biomorph comprised of hardened chitin, primarily employed by massive Tyranid species such as the Carnifex. Its purpose is to shatter armored vehicles and crush infantry ranks into a gory pulp. Up next, we have the biomorphs fused in the chitin. The thorax biomorphs. Certain Tyranids possess thoracic cavities that house various types of parasites. These parasites serve different purposes, such as draining vital fluids from their victims, emitting disruptive electrical charges to disable enemy vehicles, or nesting within enemy armor before exploding like grenades. All thorax biomorphs are ranged weapons. Flame Spurt. The Pyrovore's Flame Spurt bioweapon unleashes a blazing plume of fire, engulfing the hive mind's enemies in a scorching inferno. Flesh Hooks. Lictors are equipped with sharp barbs known as flesh hooks, attached to long, flexible tendrils coiled near their ribcage. By firing these hooks with a powerful muscle spasm, lictors can scale obstacles or ensnare unsuspecting prey, dragging them into the lictor's deadly claws. Flesh Borer. The Flesh Borer is a Tyranid biomorph commonly used by termagants and gargoyles. It is a compact nest for sharp-fanged borer beetles. These beetles remain dormant until the weapon is activated. Upon firing, an electrochemical stimulation prompts a frenzied borer beetle to propel itself forward, using its flea-like legs. The beetle burrows through armor, flesh, and bone, aided by sensor spines that help locate vulnerable flesh. It can also secrete a potent digestive enzyme to aid in penetrating armor and flesh. Flesh borer hive. The flesh borer hive is a larger version of the flesh borer used by Tyrannophexes. It contains fanged creatures that lay thousands of eggs within its bloated sacs. These eggs rapidly hatch and mature, requiring regular ejections of beetles to prevent the Tyrannophex from bursting due to the mass of creatures within. Grasping tongue. This creature possesses a clawed tongue that seizes its chosen prey, pulling it forcefully into its devouring maw. Impaler cannon. The impaler cannon propels osseous spines at high velocities, capable of punching through reinforced plasteel. Each spine is accompanied by a small creature called a shard beast, which uses membranous fins to guide the spine towards its target. Rupture cannon. This weapon fires 2 projectiles in rapid succession. The first is a bloated tick that bursts upon impact, dousing the target in an oil-like substance. The second is a seed pod with an indestructible biopolymer shell. Upon impact, the seed pod dissolves its shell using the tick's fluids, resulting in a massive explosion that can tear apart armored vehicles. Ripper tentacles. Mycetic spores utilize ripper tentacles, which are thick tendrils of muscle and tendon that extend from the spore in search of prey. Guided by movement, these tentacles can strike multiple foes in a single swipe, crush a single victim, or drag prey into the spore's awaiting jaws. Shock cannon. Shock cannons fire large claws attached to sinew ropes, latching onto targets and delivering a powerful bioelectric surge that electrocutes nearby prey and disables enemy machinery. Spike rifle. This weapon, resembling a bony, muscle-lined tube, launches harpoon-like spikes. Spine banks. Some carnifexes have explosive spine banks embedded in their carapaces, which can be fired at the enemy during a charge. Spine fist. Carried in pairs, the spine fist consists of a gun connected to the host's airbladder via a long tail that burrows through a limb. When the host exhales, a barrage of spines is unleashed, tearing through flesh with devastating effect. Stinger salvo. Stinger salvos are biomechanical weapons that launch rows of meter-long, razor-sharp spikes. Stranglethorn cannon. Stranglethorn cannons are larger versions of the barbed strangler. These heavy biomorphs fire larger and more aggressive seed pods. The tendrils grow rapidly, choking infantry and rendering lightly armored vehicles ineffective. Strangleweb. This composite symbiote creature fires a sticky mesh of webbing that ensnares victims. The web hardens quickly, restricting breathing and cutting into flesh as struggling ensues. Those not crushed are left immobile, at the mercy of other tyrannid organisms. Tentaclid. Tentaclids are living missiles designed to seek out aerial prey. They latch onto targets with barbed fangs before emitting a powerful bioelectrical pulse. Venom cannon. Heavy venom cannon. The venom cannon and heavy venom cannon are large and heavy biomorphs that unleash salvos of deadly, corrosive crystals. Victims are often killed by the impact or the toxic properties of the crystalline fragments. The crystals can puncture the plating of armored vehicles, causing destruction within and killing the crew. The next category are commonly seen as part of the invasion of a hive fleet onto a new world. Spore mines. These weapons are used by the Tyranids as living, floating mines which explode if any non-Tyrannid life form gets too close to one. Spore mines are grown deep inside a biovore's body and are then launched via a powerful muscle spasm through the biovore's dorsal aperture, and hurled across the battlefield. An internal gas bladder in the spore mines inflates, allowing them to drift down towards the ground where they do not detonate upon impact but only when they sense the proximity of a non-Tyrannid. They have been known to drift for solar days, weeks, or even standard years until an unwary foe comes too near. Spore mine biomorphs are all ranged weapons. Spore mine cysts. Spore cysts are found on larger tyranids and are excretion pits for the creation of spore mines. The symbiotic relationship between creature and spore cyst is such that they cannot be separated once formed. Spore mine launcher. The spore mine launcher is a Tyranid biomorph. Equipped to biovores, the spore mine launcher fires spore mines at its target, living bombs that blanket victims in acid, poisonous gas, and shrapnel-sized chitin spines. The spore mine launcher is a large cannon-like organism mounted to the back of the biovore, and the creature fires spore mines by activating a powerful muscle spasm which causes the launcher to spit a spore mine over great distances. Next. Armor biomorphs. Armored shell. The largest Tyranid organisms are akin to walking battle tanks, with an armored shell tougher than ceramite. Anything less than anti-tank weaponry patters harmlessly off these seemingly invulnerable monsters. Bonded exoskeleton. A bonded exoskeleton is a Tyranid biomorph that increases the defensive potential of larger Tyranid organisms. A bonded exoskeleton is formed when every bone-like plate and chitinous segment of a bioform's exoskeleton is fused together to form a tough and virtually impenetrable sheathing, which offers a similar level of protection to the ceramite used by Imperial Space Marines in their power armor. The most common Tyranid bioforms evolved to have bonded exoskeletons are hive tyrants, the tyrant guard, tervigans, Tyranid primes, carnifexes, trigons and morlocks. Chitin. Even the most basic Tyranid life forms have tough leathery hides and a beetle-like carapace that covers the creature's vital spots. This chitinous material is tough enough to turn aside blades and even glancing small arms fire. The outer body of a Tyranid is coated in a waxy slime that allows the organism to survive for short periods of time in a vacuum. Extended carapace. This type of biomorph forms when a Tyranid's carapace has grown and extended over time to cover the few vulnerable areas they might have still possessed. Hardened carapace. The creature's carapace is made of denser, strengthened chitin, able to absorb kinetic impacts that would shatter or punch through lighter armor. Reinforced chitin. The carapace plates of these Tyranid creatures continuously exude a sticky resin-like substance. These secretions quickly harden, creating an additional self-healing layers of ablative armor that offers the Tyranid greater protection against incoming attacks. This material has also proven effective in attenuating the worst effects of intense heat and radiation. Toughened exoskeleton. This biomorph takes the form of an exoskeleton of a Tyranid creature that has been enhanced through a toughening process, which makes it more durable and able to resist more damage before failing. The next category. Support biomorphs. Acid blood. The alien blood spilt from certain Tyranids is so corrosive that it can eat through ceramite armor and dissolve flesh in mere moments. Acid maw. The maws of some Tyranids constantly drip with acidic bile. Adrenal glands. An adrenal gland is a Tyranid biomorph that is commonly developed in the frontline creatures of a Tyranid swarm. Adrenal glands massively increase the production of adrenaline within a Tyranid bioform, and also saturate their host's bloodstream with other chemicals that boost the creature's metabolism to a hyperactive state of frenzy. This allows the organism to move more swiftly and attack with greater strength. The most common Tyranid bioforms found with adrenal glands are hive tyrants, tervigans, Tyranid primes, Tyranid warriors, genestealers, termagants, hormagaunts, rippers, sky slasher rippers, Tyranid shrikes, gargoyles, harpies, carnifexes, trigons, morlocks and tyrannofexes. Adrenaline sac. The adrenaline sac is a special container for excess adrenaline which the bioform can use to temporarily enhance its senses, abilities, and physical attributes. It does not contain enough adrenaline for extended use and will require refilling after a single use. Blinding venom. Some Tyranids spit caustic venom at their prey's eyes. Chameleonic skin. Chameleonic skin allows lictors to alter their skin color to blend into any environment, and become almost invisible to the naked eye. Containment spores. These curved spines are displayed down the length of a Trigon Prime's body that allows the creature to contain and focus their natural buildup of electrical energy to a greater degree than a standard Trigon. Enhanced senses. Tyranid bioforms' enhanced senses are represented by a large grouping of antennae which imperial autopsies have shown to have created areas of neural meshing, which indicates that the Tyranid bioform has essentially become a mobile appendage to its own weapon. Some bioforms have a different version of enhanced senses in which the Tyranid organism has highly developed and sensitive sight, smell and hearing. These abilities enable it to locate hidden enemy units much more effectively, often finding even those outfitted with special technology intended to keep them unseen. Frag spines. Frag spines are studied along the spines of some carnifexes, composed of explosive spine banks or other similar short-range biomorphs that launch as the carnifex rampages forward, and forces their prey to take cover or be shredded with hundreds of chitinous shards. Implant attack. An implant attack is a Tyranid biomorph that is comprised of hollow fangs, barbed stingers, or serrated claws that are capable of inflicting massive internal injuries to a victim and bleeding them to death in seconds, as well as injecting the target with fatal toxins. Leaping. Tyranid bioforms outfitted for leaping take large, bounding steps towards enemy lines and can close for combat more quickly. Hormagaunts, Tyranid warriors, and rippers are the only Tyranid species able to use leaping. Optic membranes. The bioform's eyes have been modified with an extra membrane which can cover the eyes momentarily, allowing it to avoid being blinded by sudden flashes of light. Regeneration. Some Tyranids have the ability to recover from horrendous wounds and injuries that should have proven fatal. Scuttlers. Some Tyranid bioforms have been made more intelligent and capable of greater stealth, as they can make use of terrain to creep closer and closer to the enemy before the initial attack is launched. Genestealers and Gaunts are the only Tyranids able to take the ability. Symbiote rippers. Symbiote rippers is a type of biomorph in which a living carpet of rippers is laid down over terrain which Tyranid organisms walk over. This squirming organic carpet can shuttle large numbers of different Tyranid organisms, forming a tide of biological death that can cross almost any geographical obstacle to reach the foe. Thornback. Thornback is the nickname given by Astra Militarum troops to Tyranids who possess biomorphs in the form of large blade-like chitin protrusions from their carapace. Thornbacks are often seen charging into ranks of enemy troops using pure body mass as their primary weapon and simply impaling any enemies they come across on their thorns. Thorax swarm. The thorax swarm is a Tyranid biomorph in which a large, bloated chest cavity is filled with swarms of small parasites. These creatures erupt from openings in their host organism's chest to drown the enemy in a deadly cloud that chews out eyes and crawls down throats. Different types of small creatures may make up these swarms, including electroshock grubs. Electroshock grubs are part of a thorax swarm and emit powerful bolts of electricity that arc among themselves as their constantly writhing segmented plates produce electrostatic energy. Anything caught in this energy is reduced to charred remains. Desiccator larvae. Desiccator larvae are part of a thorax swarm and can latch onto an enemy and within only seconds suck every drop of moisture from their victims, leaving behind only a dry, desiccated husk. Shreddershard beetles. Shreddershard beetles are part of a thorax swarm and once released, instinctively crawl into any nook or crevice on their victims' bodies, such as those between armor joints. They are covered in needle-sharp spines and cannot live for long outside their host, but as they die they explode, covering their victims in a hail of deadly, chitinous needles. Toxic miasma. This biomorph consists of vents sprouting from the backs of some Tyranid creatures to release toxic gases comprised of microscopic, algal formations into a prey world's atmosphere, most notably the venomthrope species. Even brief exposure to the miasma gases can cause a victim to choke to death on its own blood. Toxin sacs. Toxin sacs are a biomorph consisting of parasitic glands containing small mites which attach to a Tyranid creature, and secrete poisons into the host organism's existing biomorphs or coat poison over the host's claws, fangs and talons, while the parasite feeds on the host in return. The poisons vary wildly from necrotic venoms to toxins capable of boiling a victim's blood while still in their veins. All of the deadly poisons are swimming with Tyranid phage cells. Venom sac. This biomorph modifies a Tyranid organism by adding a sac full of corrosive venom beneath its claws and fangs, making its attacks all the more deadly to lightly armored enemies. Wings. The forelimbs of some Tyranid organisms have been mutated into leathery wings that allow them to move much more swiftly over long distances by flying or gliding. Some organisms also develop more than one set of wings or a lightened exoskeleton to assist with flight. Even the largest of the fleet's units are no stranger to biomorphs. Biotitans. Close combat. Rending claws. These are massive versions of rending claws that are only used by gargantuan Tyranid bioforms like biotitans. Razor claw. Razor claws are deadly hand-to-hand combat weapons carried by Tyranid biotitans to enhance their already formidable fighting power. Razor claws resemble gigantic crab claws, but this basic evolutionary design has been made more lethal by bonding a monomolecular edge to them so that they can slice through armorplast and ceramite. Razor claws are also implanted with frag spines like those mounted on haruspecs and malefactors, and these increase the biotitan's short-range firepower against infantry and light vehicles. Scything talons. These are massive versions of the chitin scything talons found on smaller Tyranid bioforms. Stinger salvo. Stinger salvos are used against infantry and lightly armored vehicles at close range. The stingers themselves are fans of long, needle-like protuberances which contain a vein of lethal corrosive venom. The stings are segmented, and when the biotitan directs a pulse of venom into them, the tips are launched with tremendous velocity. This reveals the sharp tip of the next segment of the needle and makes it ready for firing. Salvos of the high-velocity stingers are short-ranged but devastating, riddling targets with slivers of bone and corrosive poisons. Ranged. Bile launcher. Bile launchers work by belching a gelid lump of cankerous slime which is corrosive enough to burn through flesh and bone in seconds. Armored targets may last a little longer than others, but even they will collapse into piles of pitted and rusted metal within a few Terran minutes. Worse still, the bile launcher can have a considerable splatter radius if it strikes its target. These smaller droplets of acidic slime are unlikely to damage battle tanks, but they can still kill foot soldiers who fail to take cover. Biocannon. Biotitans commonly carry large, triple-orificed symbiote weapons, which appear to function in a similar manner to the biocannon mounted on an exocrine. The heavy cords of muscle that ridge the barrels of the cannon accelerate its ammunition of chitin shells to a speed at which they punch through armor as if it were cardboard. A hardened penetrator core at the center of the shell penetrates the target in a small explosion of shrapnel, and carries the spores of a pernicious slime fungus into it. Large targets that sustain a hit from a biotitan's biocannon are often rotted from the inside out within minutes of impact. Cluster spines. Cluster spines are similar to the frag spine implanted onto haruspecs and malefactors for close-range, anti-personnel work. They are fired by a muscular contraction, and use explosive cellular expansion to detonate on impact and spray razor-sharp chitin plates over the target area. The cluster spines implanted onto biotitans are larger, more densely packed and fire in groups to achieve maximum saturation of the target. Pyroacid spray. Pyroacid spray is undoubtedly one of the most fearsome weapons in the biotitan's arsenal. The spray fires a triple jet of highly corrosive acids which melt through plascrete and steel like wax. The interaction of the acids also produces a great release of heat, such that the jets ignite as they leave the nozzles of the spray, and the target area is quickly covered in licking flames, and explosions where the burning acid has swept over it. Spore pods. Many biotitans carry swollen pods of virulent spores implanted into their chitinous limbs. When they explode, The air around the Biotitan is filled with deadly spores which will pierce the surface of anything warm they touch and send burning, thread-like growths shooting into it. Biotitans use nerve impulses to detonate the pods, either as an intense cloud in a small area or as a broad bank of spores to sweep a larger area. Though each spore pod is emptied when it is used, a single Biotitan carries enough spore pods to last for an entire battle. The vessels which the Tyranid traverse the void are also accustomed to biomorphs. Tyranid bioships. Bioplasma. Bioplasma is a lance-like weapon utilized by Tyranid bioships that fires energetic plasma produced by organic rather than technological means. Feeder tentacles. Many Tyranid bioships have huge tentacles which they use to feed on planetary atmospheres, and which can also be used to punch through the hull of a void ship to allow the Tyranid organisms within to assault the enemy. Massive claws. Tyranid vessels are terrifying in combat at close quarters. Not only are they packed full of bioengineered killing machines, often the ships themselves have specially evolved claws designed to rip through the armored hull of its target, or crushing mandibles that latch onto the bioship's prey and then slowly but inevitably tear through decks and gantries. Cryoacid battery. These Tyranid weapons are a kind of void ship weapons battery utilized by Tyranid bioships, which work by launching compact organic shells containing virulent toxins and pyroacids. These can cause considerable damage on impact, but it is the release of their ravening payloads into the confines of a ship that can prove the most deadly. Any ship hit by a pyroacid weapon has a chance that the acid will continue to eat away at its hull due to the caustic nature of the bioagents. Spores. Tyranid bioships do not have weapons turrets or void shields in the normal sense, and instead rely on emitting a constantly replenished physical barrier of spore clouds. Every spore is a Pandora's box of viral compounds, acids and even nucleonic mutagens capable of eating through hull armor with alarming speed. The combined effect of the millions of spores produces an ablative armor effect as they absorb weapons fire, and ordnance directed at the bioship they surround. Ordnance. Some Tyranid ships may have launch bays or torpedo batteries. Tyranid bioships may only launch boarding torpedoes, fighters and assault boats, or rather their biological equivalents in the form of giant hull-boring worms, ether-swimming brood carriers, protozoid enzymes, ravening limpet mines and the like. It is also possible for a Tyranid hive fleet to make use of such ordnance independent of launch bay-equipped vessels. There are certain aberrant evolutions that have proven useful biomorphs. Bioartifacts. The bioartifacts of the Tyranids are symbiotic organisms of incredible rarity. Only one of each of the following biomorphs is usually found in each Tyranid force, as there is only thought to be one of each of these items in existence, also the indigenous races of the galaxy Hope. Maw-claws of Thyrax. During the destruction of Thyrax, the dread beast that spearheaded the assault bore a symbiotic pair of fang-lined pincers. These terrible claws tore apart and consumed the bodies of those brave enough to stand against the monstrosity, absorbing their memories and assimilating greater knowledge of its prey. Miasma cannon. The Tyranids utilize all manner of biomechanical weapons, but none that have earned more dread than the miasma cannon. Unlike other venom cannons, this weapon fires gobbets of toxin-laden slime so virulent that it reduces squads of soldiers into shapeless puddles of organic goo in seconds. Whether vomiting noxious fluids in great torrents or liquefying targets in gouts of acid, the miasma cannon has been responsible for deaths beyond counting. Norn Crown. First named by Inquisitor Cryptman, the Norn Crown is a unique parasitic organism that clings to the armored crest of the host organism's head with dozens of tendrils. Burrowing needle-like cerebral bores directly into the brain of its host, the Norn Crown forms a neurosynaptic link that acts as a hypoconduit for the hive mind. Through this abhorrent union, the hive mind's indomitable will can pour forth to augment and control the hordes of lesser Tyranids that scuttle in the leader beast's wake. Reaper of Obliterax. The Reaper of Obliterax was first encountered amongst the re-emergent Tyranid swarms of Hive Fleet Jormungandr. A deadly biomechanical weapon resembling a bone sword, this sentient blade is commonly wielded alongside a lash whip. The Reaper discharges highly concentrated bursts of destructive energy, and even the lightest blow can result in the blade's target being rent asunder. Weimgall factor. The Weimgall genestealers have long been a cancerous blight on the worlds of the Imperium. Their insatiable voracity is legend amongst those that have had the misfortune to encounter them and live. Now, dark rumors have surfaced of another Tyranid leader beast that appears to share the unfathomable adaptability of the Weimgall genestealers. Lastly, we have the powers manifested due to the biomorphed brain matter of the swarm. Hive mind psychic powers. Dominion. The Tyranid bioform uses its prodigious psychic strength to channel and amplify the will of the hive mind. Catalyst. Through its synaptic conduits, the power of the hive mind reaches out to infuse the organisms under its control, invigorating their metabolic systems with such unnatural vitality that they can ignore the most grievous of wounds. The horror. The terrifying psychic presence of the hive mind radiates from a synapse creature, flooding the minds of the Tyranid's enemies and causing them to quail and panic. Onslaught. A synapse creature reaches out its mind and seizes control of the lesser creature's weapon symbiotes, guiding their fire whilst simultaneously driving the swarms towards the enemy at a breakneck pace. Paroxysm. The hive mind debilitates its enemies by triggering every nerve and pain receptor in their bodies, overwhelming their senses with racking fits of agony. Psychic scream. Through its vassal organism, the hive mind unleashes a piercing shriek of undiluted psychic energy that shreds the minds of those caught in the wake. Warp blast. The Tyranid organism taps into the raw power of the hive mind, unleashing it as a blast of pure warp energy that arcs from its cranium and vaporizes its prey. The many biomorphs of the Tyranid threat have been honed genetically much like the creatures they are bound to, extremely deadly and efficient incapacitation. There are likely to be unseen variants on future battlefronts, as the evolution occurs to assist in whatever obstacle they face at the time. Thank you for watching and listening. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment below. What sort of biomorph would you like to see in the lore? Is there a worst option when facing the plethora of biomorphs one could face? Share your thoughts below.